3D animation class, week 11. Today the topic is animating with geometry nodes. Now, if you are also in the 3D modeling class, or if you've already taken the 3D modeling class, you already have a little bit of exposure to what a geometry node is. So geometry nodes can be used to do both model things and to animate things. And it's the word I use is procedural. So it's and when we talk about procedural animation versus procedural modeling, it's like controlled randomness. Now, the deal with geometry nodes in a 3D workflow is that like the possibilities are like limitless. Like if you think about like animating a regular thing, it's sort of like, yep, we have control over the transform properties, and we have control over the materials, and we have control over the mesh, and you can combine those things, and there's like, you can keyframe many of the values for all of those things. With geometry nodes, it's like there's infinite combinations, because there's like each node does a thing, and like combining nodes does a different thing, and then combining 3 nodes does a different thing, and then having that combined in a different way does 10 other things. So it's a little bit harder to like show you or to teach you, I suppose, like this is how you animate with geometry nodes. So this is what we're going to talk about, is a little bit more of like I'm tutorializing a couple of specific examples that I've used geometry nodes to animate things, but that if what I show you is like interesting and you're like, oh, this is cool, I want to learn more, this is something that you just kind of have to either like mess around with and understand what different nodes are doing. And this might be one where you also are like finding other tutorials. And I've linked below here a couple of things that I found. They might be a little bit dated by now, but of cool tutorials for both modeling and animating using geometry nodes if you want to go down the path. So I'm going to show you 2 examples. One is something that I personally created actually earlier this year for like real work that I was paid to do. And then I'm going to show you something else that that I saw just on the internet, and we're going to try to recreate it ourselves using geometry nodes. Okay. So jumping in. So the backstory to this animation is the company I work for, they put on events, in-person events, like in a big ballroom, and they have a bunch of AV stuff. And I'll create graphics and animations for these events. And so sometimes I create like big like name reveals for a speaker before they come out on stage. So this is, and I'll play it for you. This is the image sequence. And you can see it's done on transparency. But Jen Leary she's the name of the CEO of our company. And so like what I had done, just as even more context for this particular conference, is I had a bunch, and they were big 3x1 screens. So I had a looping background graphic that would play behind this. And then they'd cue this up and say, please welcome to the stage, Jen Leary. And then the text would kind of come through here like this. So what is being animated here? Like the only keyframes that are in this scene are the keyframes on the text. I say like, okay, the text starts back here, then the text moves through this like a cloud of cubes. Everything else, all the other moving parts, were done using geometry nodes. So there's a couple things happening. There's the cubes kind of swimming around is done procedurally. It's just sort of like a random animation, but it's not entirely random. There are controls that I have set up to say like, oh, just like hover around this much and do this. The second thing that's done with geometry nodes is the interaction with the scale of the things. So I have it set up that says, okay, well, if the name is close to you, like shrink and go away. So you can like look at this cube right here. Can I zoom in a little bit? Yeah. So like if you look at this cube here, Like when the text gets close to it, so here it is here. Here's this cube. As the text gets close to it, shrinks down and like pretty much disappears. So it shrinks based on its each one's position to the text. Okay, so that's the first example, and I'll show you how I set this up. But I also want to preview something else. So this came from my like inspiration folder of things on Instagram. But I just thought this was a really cool. It has a cool visual, and it's just like it's a relatively simple animation. But we're gonna try to recreate this. And you may see this and be like, "Wow, that's so cool!" But like, if you think about it, like it's really only just like a couple of lights and some shiny cylinders moving up and down. So you too can create cool things like this. And again, like the point of all this is like with geometry nodes is there's not keyframes on every single one of these things. It's one thing that we're animating. Like there's literally on this and on the other one, there are two keyframes. It's sort of like start and finish. And everything else we've kind of programmed, for lack of a better term, using geometry nodes, like how things move. Okay, so let's jump into the text one first. All right, so let's go new project, file new, general, don't save. Okay, so step one, let's go to our geometry nodes workspace. There's I've yet to use this window up here behind my head. This is like the spreadsheet window. So I'm just gonna go ahead and hide that. So really, the only difference between this one and this one is our default is that this has the geometry node editor. That's all. Okay, now step one: how do we get to have like a cloud of cubes first? So this is like a little bit of modeling, and if you're in the modeling class, this is like a little bit of repeat too. So I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to say Shift A, add an icosphere like this, and we'll just leave it like this. So this is the geometry node workspace down here, geometry node window, and with our icosphere, I'm going to rename this to be like cube cloud, and say new here. So this is geometry nodes. Here we go. So just a super quick, and maybe I'll also link the lecture to the modeling class in case you're not in it. Just if you want to see some more Nolan talking about geometry nodes, we can. So we have an input, which is the existing geometry on the object, and the output. Now there's empty sockets here because you can also have you can have lots of inputs. You can have values, lots of different values that come in and can affect things. So the geometry, the mesh comes in. We're going to add nodes in the middle here to change it, to do some animating or whatever. And then we're going to send it back out to, the scene. So step one, there's a node to be called in instances here, instance on points. Here we go. And I'm going to drop this one in the middle here. So you can see our icosphere went away. Because we are saying put a copy of something on every point of this mesh, but we haven't said what is going in. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. If you have an object in the scene here, like let's go Shift A, and I'm going to go mesh monkey like this. We can put Suzanne in here. So on our cube cloud, if we go select the cube cloud again, we can go add. Shift A. It's in here somewhere. No, I'm already forgetting. Is it mesh read? Well, okay. I'm already forgetting how to do it because the easier way to do it is just to drag it from your scene up here. So we have cube cloud selected. I'm just going to click and drag Suzanne, blink, right into here. Object info. This is Suzanne. And then you can put the geometry on here like this on instance. So now we have a cloud of Suzanne's on this icosphere. They're all facing the same direction. They're all the same size. Okay. The other option, I'm gonna hold down Control, and actually, I should turn my keystroke thing on. Let's go. If you do control and then click and drag right mouse button, that'll cut that. The other thing you can do is I believe you can go Shift A down here and you can add, a primitive cube just like this. So this is what we had before, cube, and put this mesh into instance here. Hopefully you can see it. So now we have a cloud of cubes happening. I'm gonna delete Suzanne because we don't actually need Suzanne. Okay, great. Cloud of cubes. All right, so how do we randomize what these cubes are doing? And so let's add a new node. So we're putting instance on points here. We're going to add one in between here, and it's going to be called set position. So I'm going to add one and say it'll just search for set position. Set position like this. Okay. So now you can hopefully, let's see, if I do offset like this, you can see it's moving that, it's moving that, it's moving that. So it's doing it all uniformly. So think a little bit harder. What's like something we can generate that gives us like random values? Now there are things like random. You can do random value like this, but it's going to be like a consistent random value. So like if I plug random value into offset like this, but actually it does kind of do something like that. That's handy. But the one that's going to serve us better actually is going to be noise. So if we search for noise, a noise texture like this. So this allows us to have like a little bit more control over what's going on, and we can. I don't think it really matters if we do factor or color because I believe it converts it to a color. Anyway, so look here now. So I have the noise texture moving around here, and you can see like as I change the scale, it's kind of shimmying basically. So just to kind of recap, or this isn't even a recap. I realize I've maybe not talked about nodes at all in animation. So when you're talking about nodes, you have sockets. So each of these little holes is a socket, and so things on the left side of a node are inputs, and things on the right side are outputs. So we work left to right. The teal color is geometry, or like meshes, things like that, and the yellow ones are like images and colors. Gray ones are just like numbers. Float is, if you remember, think back to your math, but like a float is a number that's like has decimals, like a bunch of decimals. Dark green like this is integers, so whole numbers. And purple is a vector, and a vector is 3 floats. Basically, it's 3 numbers, x, y, and z. When we talk about 3D, so purple is a vector. So right now, if you look at this, it's pretty limited in how much it moves, and I want a little bit more movement in here. So we need to do some math to kind of make the value that's coming out of factor bigger. So let's do Shift A. I'm going to search, and this is going to be vector, or is it maybe just math? Yeah, vector math is the one we want. Utilities, vector math, and I'm going to drop this one in here. And so it says add, but you can do any sort of math operation: subtract, multiply, divide, whatever. Ceiling, floor. We're going to do a couple of these. And actually, I think the one I was thinking of is its own thing. So let's do multiply maybe. So right now it's multiplying. So this is multiplying all the values x, y, and z by 0. So it's not doing anything right now. If I change the scale like this, it's doing nothing because it's saying, okay, well, multiply this number by 0 is 0. I hope you remember your math from whenever you last took math. If you don't like math, maybe geometry nodes isn't for you. Anyway, for those of you that do, continuing. 5 times 0 is 0, 5 times 0 is 0, and 5 times 0 is also 0. So it's moving in 0 in every direction. Now, if we just wanted, so this is x, y, z. If we just wanted to move in the x, so the x is, this red line here, we can multiply it like this. So you can say like, ooh, like now it's moving this much. It moved everything in the positive X direction. There's nothing to be aware of. So maybe we want some 10X animation, and then, maybe Y we only do like 1, and Z we only do, maybe we do 10 with Z or something like that too. So it's doing something. Whoops, detail. I was changing the detail. So, it's kind of floating around a little bit. But we do kind of want to keep it localized. We want to keep it sort of near the middle so we can interact with it. I'm also going to do, well, if I change this to 4D from 3D, will that make a difference? A little bit. Okay, the other thing that we kind of want to do is, let's do it. I'm going to shift D and duplicate this multiply here. And actually, we're going to do subtract, and we'll do 0.5, 0.5, 0.5 like this. So by first subtracting, 1/2, it's going to, you could also make this add by negative 0.5, negative 0.5, negative 0.5. Math. I think it's going to keep it a little bit more in the middle. So this W, is this the one we want to actually change? Yeah, I think that's fine. And then actually, you know what? I'm going to change these because I don't want it to do Z. I want to go 10, 10, 1 like this. So we've got like kind of a cloud, of things that doesn't go too tall. So, it is, you can see it's kind of like skewed in the positive and negative X. So it's like positive, positive, and negative, negative. And I don't know enough math to like try to make this work, but I think I'm going to be okay with this. Okay, so we've got our thing doing a thing. So now we haven't done any animating yet. So let's make sure that it is the animation class Nolan. Okay, so let me just get my timeline going down here. Timeline. Here we go. I'm going to keyframe the W. So let's do insert keyframe like this, and go forward 100 frames and just make it 0.7 like this, and insert keyframe like that. And look, here we go. We've got an animation happening. There we go. It's a random assortment of boxes just kind of messing with each other. Okay, we did it. We randomated a thing animately. Animated a thing randomly. Excuse me. All right, cool. So, okay. I probably went through it a little bit fast, so let's recap. So, we started with, and here I can even show you, like tab. Well, it's hiding in there somewhere. You can kind of see it. It's in there. We started with an icosphere, and this is our single input into the scene. We are saying we're bringing in the geometry. Oh, and my head's in the way. We're bringing in the mesh, and we're inputting it into the set position node. And what this is doing is it's setting the position of all the different like points. Just banged my mic. Of all the different points on the mesh, and we're saying offset each of these based on this math. So we're saying take this like random noise. We'll do a little bit of math to it, and we're going to offset all of the points on this icosphere based on the random noise texture. So it's changing the mesh randomly, procedurally. Okay, so if before we get here, and actually just as a proof of concept, let me cut these. Let's just see what this looks like. Will it show us the icosphere? Yes. Okay, so without doing the instance on points, this is what's happening to our icosphere. It's just sort of like wobbling it and warping it. So, this could be a thing too, So and we're animating this W value. This is just sort of like kind of If you use After Effects, it's sort of, if you have a noise texture, this is like the evolution. It just sort of changes the randomness over time. That's what this W does. Okay, so, you know, all we've done up to this point was we've changed the points on our icosphere. Now what we're doing is we're saying on each of these points, that's what instance on points is, put a cube. Put a cube on every single point. So I'm just going to drop this back onto here. If I can. Can I just drop you on? No, I'll cut this. Connect this to here, connect this to here. Great. So now instead of just using that geometry, we're saying now you're made up of cubes. Here's cube. You know, we can change the size. You can change the size here if you wanted to. You can do all that stuff, and output this back out to what we're seeing on the geometry. So all in all, you know, we're doing all this kind of fancy like stuff, but we're not animating a bunch of cubes. We're animating one value. Here is the power of the geometry node. So what's really gonna come in handy, and like instance on point and set position, these are really key ones for kind of doing this randomness stuff. The other key part is understanding what math you need to do to kind of get it to be reasonable. And a lot of times you're going to be doing vector math and doing multiply. So like if you're not wanting something to move in a particular direction, you're multiplying that by 0, saying move 0. Like whatever you want to do, just multiply that by 0 because that's always 0. Or like if it's moving too much, like multiply it by like a value that's less than 1, or divide by 2, you know. Just remember, like, multiply is the opposite of divide, add is the opposite of subtract. And I lost my train of thought. So like here we're saying, yeah, you can move in the Z a little bit, but we want you to move 10 times as much in the X and Y. That's why we're multiplying the X by 10, we're multiplying the Y by 10, and the Z by 1. So you got to get a little bit comfortable with kind of thinking about the math. Which values are changing? What do I need to adjust those values by using vector math? Okay. And then our cube goes into here. Okay. You with me so far? If you're not, it's fine. It's totally fine if you're not with me. Just keep watching. Okay, now, part 2 of this is how would we get these cubes to interact with something else? How do we get the cubes to say, oh, something is near me, I need to change my scale, or something like that? So I'll give you a clue. We need to plug something into the scale of these here. All right, here we go. So first we need to decide what is gonna like go into our scene here, and you know, naturally we should do a monkey. You know, RZ like this a little bit. So we're gonna have our monkey. Let's see. I'm gonna do Oops. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting I is keyframe everything, and then we'll go G-Shift-Z and move monkey through like this, and then go I. Okay. So monkey is moving through the thing like that. Okay, that's going to be our only keyframes. Excuse me. Okay. Let's go back to our cube cloud, and we need to change the scale here. So what I'm actually going to, if you want to get really organized, you can create like groups of things or something. I'm lazy. Whenever I use geometry nodes, it is so sloppy. You will know that if you took, or if you're in the modeling class and you saw my lecture from this week. Okay. What we need is a proximity. Prox, geometry proximity. Sample geometry proximity. Okay. 2 things. We need to find, so this is going to compare, so proximity, it's going to like do the math on how far apart things are. So we say like the proximity is how close 2 things are together. So we need to input 2 things. 1, where Suzanne is, where the monkey is, and 2, where each of the cubes are. So how do we input Suzanne into here? Remember, you can just, with the cube cloud selected, I can click and drag Suzanne into here. The other thing is you could go input Oh, here it is. Scene. Oh, I guess you could just do. For some reason, I thought you could select something from the scene, but you just go object info like this and then choose the thing, you know. And then whoops. Blah, 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 blah. You can choose it from the drop down list. But I already dragged Suzanne in there. So next thing. This geometry, the geometry of Suzanne, is going to be our geometry on geometry proximity. The other thing, and I like totally forgot about this very simple thing, but we need to do the relative position. And so this is looking at the object information of Suzanne, where the geometry is. And we don't want the original because its original position is over here. And it's only ever going to look here. We need the relative position. So if it's moving, if it's changing, we need relative, the info of where it is relative to where it began. Okay, geometry. Now, the sample position here, we need to, like, these are the two things we're measuring the proximity of. Suzanne and the thing that we're actually on. So I believe how this works is we just do, and I think you can just search for position, right? Geometry read. Yep, we're going to read the position of each of our instances. Here, sample position, boom. So we're inputting the location of Suzanne. We're inputting the location of each of the cube. It's going to calculate the distance. So one of our outputs here is the distance. It does the math, and now we find the distance. So let's just see. Let's plug this into scale here and see what happens. Okay, so you can see they all puffed out. As I move through, you can see like they all get smaller. Suzanne passes through, and then they get bigger again. And then they all get gigantic. So this is not ideal. This isn't exactly what we wanted. So can you guess what we got? We got to put something in between here. You can see that it starts as gray and ends as purple. And we want to change the values. We need to do some math, vector math. And actually, it's going to be a little easier than that. So you could try to like multiply it by a number or do whatever. But there's another node that's handy, and it's called clamp. C-L-A-M-P. Utilities math clamp. So it is like a math thing. But basically, it's going to kind of put guardrails on where a value can be. So we're inputting the distance here. So like when Suzanne is way over here, you know, the distance, and I can even get out my little measuring tool. The distance here is 9 meters to this top cube. And so the distance, if we're saying the distance is the scale, that means the scale was 9 meters. Like the scale was 9 because the distance was 9. So what we're going to clamp, what this clamp does, it says like, okay, the distance is 9, but the maximum this can be is 1. So just output 1. So it's just going to be 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And as soon as the distance becomes less than 1, then output, you know, that value. Then you know, it's allowed to change or it's allowed to be that number if it's between 0 and 1. And then if it becomes less than 0, which is impossible because you can't have a negative distance between things, but it would stop there. So now, here we go, Suzanne, as it gets close, they just kind of whoosh, get out of the way. Suzanne comes through. So you know, it's not perfect because you know there's still some clipping. Like you can see, it's based on the relative position of. And actually maybe it is perfect. Because I was about to say it, like there are places where that clips through each other, but I don't think it actually does. Maybe it does like actually measure each face as it comes through. Yeah, cool. I learned to delete these things. You have to click on the end, one of the ends, and then press delete. Took me a while to figure that out. Okay, cool. So we pretty much did it. So now the last step is to, you know, add like a cool world kind of thing, and then do this and put a thing on Suzanne, and actually first switch to cycles and do GPU. And then Suzanne has an emission material like this. And, you know, you make it really bright. And then you basically have what I did for that thing. So like Suzanne just comes through here and it like is revealed. And I had a little bit of like transparency on this material. So this was, you know, like also kind of like a teal color, but it was like metallic and roughness down. So they were like shining a little bit. But then there was also like the alpha was down a little bit like this. But why doesn't it look like that? He asked. Oh, you know what? So here's another thing. So if you're doing something with geometry nodes, you also may need to do the set material here at the end, and you can just select the material. There we go. That's kind of cool. Alpha up a little bit, maybe roughness up. So yeah, this is what it did. And then if you really wanted to get fancy, you know, you could do world volume, and you could do volume scatter like this, and density of like 0.01 or something like that. And you could have it be like kind of foggy like this, 0.1. And the color could also be like a teal color like that. I don't know. Okay. Kind of cool, right? Kind of fun. Is it interesting? Do you like it? And so, in the grand scheme of everything, you know, we only have 2 sets of keyframes. It's a cool animation, but all we're saying is just move these boxes around randomly, and also get out of the way of Suzanne and put some keyframes on Suzanne. Let's save this. I think this is worth saving. This is the animation class. This is going to be, you know, Suzanne, monkey boxes. Boxes move away. Can't do exclamation point. Cool. All right. New project. Let me pull this up again. Let's try to make this now using geometry nodes. This should honestly actually be even easier. So let's maybe if you want to challenge yourself, pause the video and see if you can figure it out on your own, or just don't. Just watch me do it. Okay, so we need some cylinders. Let's go. So I'm gonna delete this, and I'm gonna start with a plane. The plane in Spain. All right, so we're gonna start the same way. Let me just make this my geometry node editor here. And this is gonna be, you know, our like floating sill. Oh man, I keep forgetting my. Sometimes I move my my camera down here, and then I realize I'm covering up the keyboard shortcuts. Okay, new one on here. And like you can also make geometry or reuse geometry nodes on a thing. It saves it just like you would save an action or something like that. So this could be like nothing, and then close that, like remove that from it, and then do another one. And this is going to be called like make cylinders. Make cylinder. Okay. And then you have the list to choose from. So like you could they're modular. You can put them on separate things. Okay. So let's just first, how about this? Let's make our cylinder like this, and I want to do. I'm gonna check my add cylinder menu, and I want to make them like skinnier, like this. And sorry, I'm getting messages. I want a triangle fan on the top, like this. I'm gonna edit this just a little bit. I'm gonna go tab. Okay, hold on. And I'm gonna tab. And sorry for you that don't like to do modeling. I insert faces like this. And then I'm going to e-extrude that down so it just kind of looks like a thing. It doesn't have to go all the way through. Whoops. And I did anyway. GZ. There we go. Okay, I'm also just going to do a shade smooth, and I'm going to do a control 2 like this, and I'm going to do a control R to do a loop cut. Sorry, tab for edit, control R to do a loop cut. I want it to look nice, please. So I'm going to do another control R loop cut, bring it up here like this. Control R to do a loop cut on the inside. Oops. Actually, I do want one here as well, along the outside. Why? There we go. I'm trying to get it close. Control R, do another loop cut. You could do the bevel. If you were cool, you could do a bevel, I suppose. Let's do one more Control R loop cut on the inside here like this to get that edge up. And then I'll do a final one, Control R loop cut down at the bottom, just so that it leaves me alone. Okay. We've got a nice rounded thing going on here. Okay. This is our cylinder. It is a cylinder. No, it's a tube. T-U-B-E. Okay, here we go. Floating sill. Let's drop our tube in here right away, and let's go instance on points like this. Geometry, boom, like this. Instance on points. Okay, so there are 4 points on a plane. There's a couple ways to increase our geometry using nodes. So again, sorry, this is more of a modeling thing. So the simplest one is actually just subdivide mesh like this. You can drop this on here, and you can see like burp, it's subdivided at one time, and then you can say subdivide 2 times, 3 times. That's the like super easy way. The other way, there is, you could do like subdivision surface like this if you wanted something to be like kind of more rounded like this. Like, look at that. Look at how that worked out. It kind of rounded out the 9. There's even like a fancier one. You can see it. You could do the edge crease and stuff like that too. So that's kind of cool. There's another one, Shift A, that I haven't used as much, but this one I believe can do a pretty good job doing something randomly. I think it's distribute points on faces like this. And this is a good way to do like random. So you can see you can do random. So if you're trying to do like procedural grass or something like that, you can do this random one. Poisson disc. So this will do things. But what makes sense for us today, I believe, is going to be the regular old Shift A subdivide, because we want it to be subdivide mesh, right? Yeah, like this, and we want it to be a lot. So we're probably going to scale this down a little bit, and so, if I wanted to, so now, how do we scale this down? I'm already kind of moving on to the next thing. It's a little bit tedious to kind of try to scale all these individually. So what you can do is you can just plug a value into here and just say value, input constant value, and plug that into the scale. So that way you only need to do 1 number versus 3 numbers. So, our value is going to be like, 0.2 or something like that. Cool. Okay. The other thing we can like quickly do to kind of get these all lined up is you can edit the original. So we can edit the original tube. If I go tab into edit mode like this and do A to select all, we can S to scale this up, and you can kind of see how they line up, because we do want them to be like touching, like just about touching like that. Maybe even like a little bit less. I don't know. Okay, cool. And then we can pretty much hide that one. Now we're left with these. Okay, so the thing about this, our reference here, is that they're kind of like, you can see that they're arranged like in a hex pattern, so they're kind of offset a little bit. So in this particular instance, it's easy. We can just edit the original plane here. So because it's subdividing it perfectly, it's subdividing it procedurally, we only have these 4 points to manipulate. So I'm going to go to vertex select here, I can just grab these top two in G and kind of move these at an angle until I get everything exactly the way I want it into our nice little hex pattern. Oh, and you know, it's going to bother me. You can see there's those little ripples at the bottom. I got to fix that. So I'm going to go into here. I'm going to tab into to edit. Ooh, I'm going to do a Control R loop cut at the very bottom here. Control R. Are you going to do it? Oh, no. You know what I think I need to do is go... what? Nope. 3 for face select. I just want these ones down here. And I'm going to go I insert faces like that. There we go. There we go. Okay. All right. Now we can hide this. Now we're done with you. Okay, we've got all these lined up. And now to animate. So, let's see. We probably need a little bit of noise going on here. Okay, so shout it out if you know it. We did it before. Geometry. No. What was it? Set position. Set position. It was geometry, right? Okay. And offset. So, well, first let's put our noise in here. Let's do the noise. Shift A. Let's do. I'm just gonna do noise. Noise texture. Noise texture. Okay. Factor. Offset like this. All right. So. Distortion. Let's do 4D. So, you know, it's doing it cuckoo bananas, you know? And that's if we look back at our reference here, you know, they're just traveling up and down. So, let's solve the math here. How do we just want which value? The Z. We only want the Z to be being offset. So, let's do some math. Vector math. Here we go. And we want this to be a multiply. So right now it's multiplying everything by 0. The X is 0, the Y is 0, and the Z is 0. But, you know, if we do want just the Z to move, we would just do it like this. So, you know, put a value here in the third thing. Okay. And, you know, we can also, like, if you see how it floated up in the air, if you could just move your camera up, but if you wanted to keep that kind of relatively close, you can just do another math, utilities, math, vector math like this, and we could do subtract and just, you know, subtract that so it's looking good. Okay, let's try to line up our shot a little bit now. So I kind of like, let's see, this is a little bit more, where is it? Where are you? It's like a little bit of a longer lens. And actually we can see the sides of like the end of them here. And there's a really nice depth of field. So this is a little bit more kind of the artistic stuff, a little less technical. So let's get my camera right. Let's see. So the camera is maybe going to be kind of like right around here. I'm going to do Control Alt 0 to kind of set my camera. And I want to set, I have to click on my camera actually and do camera settings and set this to be, you know, like a 138 or something like that. And then I'm going to set up my workspace here like this. Let's just set this to be the camera view here like this so we can see it. And go T to get rid of the tools over there and N to get rid of that. And I'm just going to click on this and change this to local, and we can get the move tool. I'm just going to move this out and see what we get. Okay. Up a little bit maybe. And actually I think I also want it to be rotated down just a little bit. And then up. Move it up. And now I'm whispering because this is really serious. Okay. Now let's see. It feels like it's moving a little bit too much, so I'm going to change the multiply of the Z offset. I'm going to lower this down to be like, you know, 1.6 or something, and then maybe I'll subtract a little bit less in my thing here. Okay, and then let's animate. So let's get another window going here. That's going to be my timeline, and the W, I'm going to insert keyframe for that. And, over here, we'll just make it, something innocuous, 4.9. Insert keyframe like this. So now looking, this is the like preview of the animation here. We're looking down like, yeah, it kind of looks all right. I need to adjust the camera just a little bit more. Let's see. Whoops, and of course I ruined the view here. Let's move it in this window rather. Move that down like this. And maybe I could have made it bigger so there's less things going on. Okay, and let's also make this one like a render preview like this. And let's change over to cycle so it's like really cool. Okay. All right, we're getting there. The other thing that might be kind of fun with this, and I think it's okay as is, but like if you wanted it to be like less random, you would change this scale here. You would make the scale smaller, I believe. Yeah, so like a really small value, like 0.2, you can see that the wave is pretty uniform like this. But as we change the scale, make up the scale a little bit, you can see like it starts to flow a little bit more. Make it in at 0.116 there. It starts to kind of get a little bit more random. Cool. All right. Let's just set up the rest of our artistic scene here. Make the world black. And we need to get our shininess on here. So those were pretty much like chromed out, I believe. So let's put a material on here, and this is going to be like chromed out. Okay. Metallic, yes. Roughness, no. Now, this material is on this object, but because we're using geometry nodes, it's not liking it. So we have to kind of add the set material here at the end. Set material, and put this at the very end. Set material, and then we can select chromed out from that drop down there. Chromed out, please. There we go. Okay, and maybe roughness up just a little bit up roughness. Okay, let's check our reference here. So we need some lights. So we've got like a pink light, maybe kind of behind or like near the camera, and then we've maybe got like a blue light that's coming from the back. I think area lights are always really good at. Whoops, and I closed it. Area lights are really great for reflection. So let me delete this, and let's get a Shift A. Let's do an area light like this. Put it over here, and this is going to be 500 watts, and this is going to be our pink light. Maybe this needs to be more. Maybe this needs to be like 15. Oh, and it needs to be bigger, I think. Make it bigger. Oh, and it's not pointing. It's not pointing where we want it to. It's behind. Okay, I got to get my bearings right here. So move it over here. Point it this way. Here we go. Ooh, and it's down. Here we go. Now we want it to be hitting the tops of those things. I'm maybe even going to move it like that. Move this way. For some reason I kind of struggle with like positioning lights. Okay, now we're starting to see some of the reflections here. And I think I want it to be a little bit higher so it can catch the tops of the things a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to go Shift D like this and move this one back here. And this one's going to be our like blue light like this. Okay, we're getting closer. The other thing, let's see, and I accidentally closed it. We might even have another light over here that's like more of a blue light. So I'm going to go G and oops, and I didn't mean to do that. So let's actually, ooh, that was looking pretty nice though as I brought that closer. That was looking pretty nice. So I'm going to leave that one there. I'm going to go Shift D and add another one like this. And this one's going to be just like a little bit of a different shade of blue. This one's going to be like a darker blue like this. And then the other kind of flavor to all this, I think, was just like I did with the other one. Let's add a world volume and go volume scatter like this. and make the strength like 0.1. And oh wait, nope, that was the background, sorry. That should stay 1. Here we go, volume scatter. Density 0.1, like this. Ooh, 0.05. Yeah. 0.02. Cool, yeah, so now you can see we're getting some of that like hazy, foggy stuff going on. And I do think my lights maybe need to be brighter. Let's make these like 2000. Make this one 2000. Make this one 2000. And I also think I need to have like a lower pink one too. Shift D. Oh yeah, there we go. Now we're getting the reflections. Oh yeah, check that out. Sweet. And then the last step, is we got to get like a really shallow depth of field. My volume scatter is still like too dense. I think it's like a little bit too hazy. 0.01. Okay, last thing. I need a focus object for my camera, so I'm gonna go Shift A. I'm gonna add an empty plane axis like this, and I'm gonna call this focus object. I'm gonna click on my camera. I'm gonna say, hey camera, focus on my focus object. Bing. And then turn on. Oh, and it's behind my head. Sorry. It's in depth of field here. So I'm going to say turn on depth of field and focus on my focus object. So I can move this focus object around and get the exact perfect depth of field. Okay, clicking on my camera. I'm going to depth of field and changing the f-stop to be like 1. Really shallow depth of field. Maybe even like 0.7. Just so that some of that stuff in the background starts to get blurry. Okay. And then you could render out this image. Oops, and I haven't saved this Blender file at all. Animation, this is going to be like pipes. Save. Okay, let me just render. Change my render settings real quick. Time limit, 20 seconds. And render image. Okay. So, don't forget don't forget your rendering properties, making sure that you're adjusting samples if you're using cycles. I know that like in this being a animation lecture, we only created like 3 sets of keyframes, but maybe that's kind of the joy of doing things with geometry nodes, that you can have things moving and having interesting interactions with things, but they it's minimal actual animating. It's more like kind of setting up these cool things. Okay, final step. I know you're maybe scared of compositing, but I just have to do it. I just have to add a glow with this. It's not called glow though. Glare is the one I want. Glare. Put a glare in here. And we want bloom. And give me, let's see. I do need another output, a viewer node. If you haven't done animation, or if you haven't done modeling, and the compositing is like scary, that's okay. Oh yeah, just like that. I just want to render it just like that because I want that like. I want that, cyberpunk glow happening. This is one of my favorite aesthetics. Is the neon cyberpunk vibe, fluorescent colors. Yeah, cool. Waiting and then give me the glare composite. Yeah, cool. Now imagine we animated all those or we rendered out the full animation and as an image sequence or whatever. Save this. Yeah, cool. Maybe this will be the thumbnail for my lecture this week. So maybe I'm spoiling it a little bit, but oops, I didn't mean to open image. I want to go image, save image. And this is pipes. Cool. Okay, so that's it for geometry nodes. If you're interested, it's one of those things you just got to mess around with. Find some other tutorials. I've linked a couple. Your assignment for creating game animations is due next week and using the nonlinear animator. Man, and I hope that I'm not forgetting something. You know me, I like jot down notes on pieces of paper. Not that I'm going to get to it now at this point, because we're 56 minutes in to the lecture. Oh, it's only 54. You can just watch me flip through pages for a little bit. This is all work stuff. That's from a couple weeks ago. Okay. Wasn't that fun? So please complete your game animations for next week. We'll Zoom next week. And then after that, you get a little break for Thanksgiving. Additionally, make sure you're thinking about what you might want to do for a final project. And hopefully we can discuss some of your ideas when we Zoom next week. So that's all. Happy animating. And if geometry node sounds cool, check it out. And I'll see you.